And that brings us to the question of what are we going to do about energy when we're elected to the legislature. Will we close Vermont Yankee?
Yo, I would vote to close it tomorrow, sure.
Yeah.
First, this is just broad brush. First, all the hydropower that exists, the physical dams and infrastructure, we should buy. And if we become our own country, we will buy. We'll insist on it. We need all those dams, we need all the hydro serving Vermont. Second, small windmills on all kinds of farms and in all kinds of places. Third, every existing house that has a south-facing roof could have solar collectors on that roof, and you would not be using up one speck of the earth to put solar collectors on it that hasn't already got a house on it. Put them on all houses. We can do that with public money. We can do it with entrepreneurial expertise. We can get that done. The third part of it is biomass, and that means management of our wood and our woodlots. Changing how we do that, using biomass to create small pellets, chips, burners of that sort. Between those three things and some oil and whatever else gets developed down the line, we should be all right. But, you know, we have it because, you know, we're only 630,000 people in the state. We should be okay. But that's not going to support an automobile culture.
We disagree a little bit on the details. Now, for me, I would say that we can continue with an automobile culture, but we have to go to electric cars.
Yeah. You know, certainly that's already, I mean, we're already looking at hybrids. We're already seeing some of that, and you will see some of it. And I'm not saying, you know, get rid of cars entirely, but, you know, rail is the smart thing to do, and cars are awfully expensive. You have to make that electricity. You have to charge those batteries.
But it would be comparable to what they have in Sweden, for instance, where gas is $8 a gallon. With gas at $8 a gallon, the hybrid Prius becomes very cost effective. It's an economy car.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does.
And the electric solar panels, I would go slower at putting them on the roads because the technology is not yet totally competitive. Electric solar panels, the cost is actually double what we're paying now for electricity. So I would more focus on wind power, which is competitive. It's only very slightly, maybe 3 or 4% more expensive than.
Yeah, but you don't want those big towers all over hell and gone. You know, wind technology is there, and so is solar for small installations in a lot of places, and it's reasonably priced. You know, I don't want to quibble one versus the other. Both those technologies need to be looked hard at and worked with. There are people out there who can show you how to build solar collectors for $100. There are books that show you how to do it. Ordinary, regular guy, hammer, chisel, screwdriver. It can be done.
The collector is not, I don't think, the most expensive part of it. You have to have other electronics to convert it to alternating current and store it in batteries. And
it's not that difficult. I have friends who were doing it 30 years ago. You know, I know a little bit of the physics of it. It's not that tough. Well, you're an engineer, so maybe I should be a little more careful here.
My first job out of electrical engineering school, I was with the Orange and Rockland Utility Company. I worked on the power distribution lines.
Yeah.
The transformers.
Yeah.
But then I went to law school.
When you do feed in, does the source of the solar or the DC have to change it to alternating to feed in, or can it feed in DC into an alternating line?
Well, you could use, it's not an alternating line. If you feed DC, in fact, Edison, when he first developed the light bulb, I think it was an all DC system.
Yeah.
But it became, the alternating current was much more effective. So if we wanted to go back to an all DC system, it might make the solar collectors cheaper. And that's an idea if you're only going to use it in your own house. But if you're going to sell it to the general idea is to sell it to the grid, your excess power.
Well, first, feed your house. Excess, sell to the grid.
But as soon as you connect to the grid, then you've got to have
you got to have AC.
And to get the AC, you've got to have some.
So it's tougher in rural areas, but in more concentrated areas, there's no reason why DC lines can't pool to one alternator. Now, you can meter the DC, goes to one alternator and out. I mean, I'm pulling this right out of my ear here, but science isn't a strange thing to me. I would I'm sure, if you meter the DC, that's giving you the volume of current that each producer is producing. So throw it into one alternator, a community alternator, and feed it back into the system.
So you're jumping ahead a little bit with the technology.
No.
If we get to that technology,
just
then
wire it to one. It's no change at all. It's just how you wire it. You know, if you want to run DC lines from 10 houses to one central little place and have an alternator there and feed the AC lines from there, that's just nothing to it.
But it doesn't exist now because there's no organization to get the people together to do it.
No, it's not hard to do.
I think that would be worth trying. I don't know.
Not
if
hard
that's
to
the
do.
answer or not.
I don't either. But the point is, if you can get out from under the standard regulations and all the business things and all the stuff that gets thrust on us and get into an entrepreneurial mode, and people will pick the ball right up and start innovating. You know, we'll get this done. I have, there are some ways in which I think we are a sad species, but a couple of the things that we're really, really, really good at are tinkering and fixing and making stuff. We're good at that. We'll figure it out.
And another important issue we will have to deal with when we get into the legislature is education. What do you think of the educational system in Vermont? Are we really teaching the kids what they need to know?
You know, I went through BHS. I was in the so-called gifted track that they had at that time. I worked hard. I had good teachers, the best around.
BHS, Burlington High
Burlington High School, and then the UVM, and then the University of Chicago Law School, and so on. And I'm an academic type. I'm interested in academic things, have been all my life. I've spent an awful lot of my time teaching myself stuff that I didn't learn in school. The long and short of it is, I think we do a lousy job educating our children. And we have been doing a lousy job for 50, 60 years. Smaller schools, bringing electronic feeds so the whole internet and the entire world of knowledge is available, but small schools, small numbers, small buildings, in communities, in neighborhoods, is the right way to go. Phil Hoff was wrong. Union schools was the dumbest idea I've ever heard of. It was dumb then. It's still dumb. It's dehumanizing. It's nuts. Community schools is the right way to go. And exposure of kids to real life problems, real history, real political things, real science, the need for real work. Why don't we have, community gardens and farms where there are tents all around in a circle and kids live there in the summertime and help with the gardens and help with preserving the food and help with the harvest and live in those tents in the summer and teach each other everything that they learn and play guitars and sit around the campfire at night and we'll teach other things. We can pipe in whatever kids want to learn. We can have a lot of fun. We can be healthy.